Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Now for those that have been here before, welcome back. Your girl has missed you. I did. And to those who are new on this channel, I appreciate you so much for passing through. All right, so today is National Sunday. And I was like, it'd be awesome for me to talk about the birth of my son. You guys know he is my one and only for right now. And it was such an experience that I honestly could not see any different. We're gonna do some makeup. We're gonna have a nice chit chat. I did mention on my Instagram that we're gonna have a lot of real talk. So this is probably one of those vlogs, or yeah, I guess it's a vlog about a real talk, or I should say about real talk. And yeah, let's get to it. So my body definitely works like clockwork, hands down, especially when Shorty comes through every month. I'm like, all right, looking on my period tracker. I'm like, I should be expecting her today, tomorrow, or the following weeks, following days. And normally she either comes early, and that's it. She never comes late. It's either early or, as I learned, nothing. And sure enough, I'm sitting there like, I wonder where she's at, knowing dang well what I did a couple of weeks ago. Much better. Okay, so where was I? My best friend Janae. Me and my best friend Janae were heading, like I said, one thing about Janae and I, we absolutely love the movies and we love to eat. So of course, one summer night, she's like, what you doing? Nothing. Girl, what you doing? Nothing. And I was like, I gotta talk to you anyway. She's like, all right, we out. Went out to go get some grub and went to the movies. Now, as we're heading to the movies, was it the movies or was it dinner? We're heading somewhere, right? I think we were heading to the movie theater. And I was like, girl, I know this is coming from far left, but I think I might be pregnant. And Janae's a sharpshooter. She don't got time for no A, B, C, or D. She said, we're gonna go to the store. The hell you mean you think you are? You either are or you're not. All right, we're gonna figure this out. You're gonna get a test, and then you're gonna pee on the gosh darn stick, and then get your answer. What you mean you think you are? It's either you are or you're not. So I was like, all right, girl, all right, you got it. So then I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna take it just yet. I'm gonna wait until tonight when I get home after the theater, and so we'll figure it out. But I was like, let me use the bathroom one more, because I have a feeling that she's gonna come. Mary Flo was gonna come. Mary Flo ain't come. So we went to CVS, got some tests. She said, keep me posted. Boom. So now I'm on self mode, right? And I'm like, oh gosh. I went home that night after the movie theater. I actually was working an overnight position. So I went home. Right before I left for work, I took a test, and the line was extremely faint. So I'm like, went to good old Google, and I said, okay, what does this mean? Now, half the articles were saying that I was indeed carrying a baby, and the other articles were like, yeah, most pregnancy tests come with 2 strips. So just to make sure, the best time to take it is the next morning. Next morning came. Right? I was like, okay, I've been holding this in. When I tell y'all, how you're supposed to wait a couple of minutes to read the results? As soon as the urine touched the tip of the test, I don't know if it was a plus sign or 2 double lines, but I was like, dang. And I remember putting it down and waiting, and I was like, oh gosh, oh gosh. Flipped it over. Bright old lines, bright pink lines that said, yeah, you're definitely having a baby. And I was like, oh my gosh. So obviously the first thing I did was contact the guy I was talking to at that time. And I just told him that I need to come over. We need to talk about something. He was like, all right, cool, come through. I asked him if he was home because, again, it was overnight. I worked an overnight position, so the next morning I would be coming straight from work to his house. Like I was doing a little bit too much that summer. So of course I'm frantic, right? Leave work, head over to his house. Baby, when I tell y'all the car was parked in the middle of the street crooked, the car was parked in the middle of the street crooked. I ran up the porch stairs, and I rung the doorbell. I swung the screen door open and rung the doorbell, sat my behind down on the stairs of the porch, right? Somebody opened the door. I turned around. I thought it was him. It was his brother. I said, excuse me, where's your brother? He's like, my brother's inside. I was like, all right, move. I have some important news to share. Finally, Get inside. He comes downstairs. I remember his shirt was mad wrinkled. Oh no, he looked like he just woke up. And then I was like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I wanted to know for sure. So you know the pregnancy test they do where they actually do an ultrasound. And I was like, you know, I set up an appointment between the time of me knowing and the time of me getting to his house. They were open appointments to do just that. And I was like, oh, we out. And then he was like, all right, I'm coming with you. Let's go. We are headed to the subway, getting on the train. I'm nervous. He's making jokes about something. We get to the place that's going to do my ultrasound. I'm talking to the lady that's doing it. He's in the waiting room or the lobby, and it was really nice. It was a really nice place. They ended up giving me like a mother, what's those popular books called? Mother to Be or something book. And sure enough, after all is said and done, I got my little ultrasound picture. They were like, yeah, there goes the sack. There goes the baby that's being made. I'm like, okay, all right. After all is said and done, we pack up, we head on out. Now we're in New York City in the middle of the beginning of August. I think it was August 1st. Yeah, the beginning of August. It definitely was August 1st. And then we are walking. It was probably like around noon. Around this time, it was hot, a little steamy, mad muggy. And then we end up finding, or he ends up finding, this hole in the wall, like bar-esque restaurant. And the conversation we had, I knew at that moment that everything was going to go downhill. Everything was going to go downhill. I was like, oh, nah. I didn't feel like I pulled back the layers of who he actually was. Because had I known, maybe I would have ran for the hills to see how much of just not a good person, you know, just not a good person. I look at him and I'm just like, you come from a good family, or for what I thought, you know, what I was presented with was a nice show. But nah, somebody raised you right. They did a terrible job. Terrible. Boom, conversation happened. I knew from there he wasn't with it. I ended up texting my good girl, Dr. Lynn. I texted Dr. Lynn. I said, girl, I'm pregnant. And I saved this, the message she sent back. And she said, breathe, everything will be okay. And I had that message as my screen saver or screen wallpaper on my phone until my son came. Following a few months or few weeks afterwards, I got a text message, not a phone call, not a let's meet up in person, and just nothing. It was a text message that stated something on the lines of, and I know exactly what it says, but I remember memorizing that text message because it hurt so much. I saved it. I was like, girl, but the message pretty much said, I've spoken to people in my family and I don't think it's the best interest to have this baby right now. I got sent abortion articles. I got sent articles of women that had abortion and were so happy with their decision and all this stuff. And I just want to say, the thought of me even beginning being pregnant, by all means, I was like, I'm gonna have this child. When all this happened, we were in our late 20s. So it wasn't like we were like 16-year-old, we were teens having a kid. Then I would have probably been like, all right, you know, I still got my whole life ahead of me. Maybe this is not the right time. But we were grown with college degrees. And I said, okay. Of course, I didn't say it as calm as I'm saying it now, because I was a little firecracker. I really was. And even now, to this day, I don't know what the reason was, right? Like what his real underlying reason was. Because you've met my family. We've been around each other. You've met my friends. I met yours. We vibe real well. We have a good time together. I had a real good time together with him. We had one of the best park car conversations, talking about anything and everything. And for him to just be like, I'm out of here, that hurt a lot. So now at this time, only Nay and Jenna knew about my pregnancy. And so we had to tell the parentals. Now, It wasn't a fact of me being scared about telling them that I was expecting. It was the fact that I had to tell them I was expecting, but he's not going to be around. And that really blew me. And definitely sure it blew my parents. Because I was just so upset. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? You know, I was a good person to you. I was a very good friend to you, as I'm a good friend to all my friends. And it's kind of like, now you got me over here embarrassed, about to tell my parents literally a life-changing situation, and I have to do it by myself. And I say that very loosely, but that was one of the biggest blows to my stomach. Now, I knew I needed to tell my parents as soon as possible. Why? Because my cousin's 25th birthday was coming up. And where were we going? To Vegas. So I'm like, I have to tell them before the Vegas trip, because I don't want that guilt sitting on me at all. Like, I'm trying to go out and have me a grand old time and feel good about it, you know? And sure enough, told them, you know, parents gonna tell you some parents things. They're gonna give you that tough love. There were tears shed. There was disappointment. I remember telling my mom I felt like a failure, and she told me, she's like, you're not a failure. But yeah, overall, randomly, I texted her that morning. I was like, I gotta speak to you when you get home. And she thought I was going to jail. She was like, what? You're going to jail? What? Yo, Haitian parents, I was like, no, definitely not. Oh, I don't look good in orange. I do look good, but not that orange, you know what I mean? So after that, next up was my siblings. Now I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister. So I told my sisters first, and they were like, I said, guys, I have to speak to you, and da-da-da-da-da. We sat down at the living room table, the dining room table, and I told them. They were like, oh, okay, you know. And I told him the whole spiel about homie not being around. They were like, all right, it's okay, you know. All that good sisterly love. I told my brother, and he was like, super, you best have a, okay. And I was like, okay, started to feel better about this, right? But I knew for a fact that I wasn't ready to tell my family. And I know, like, of course, me and Google were best friends during my, me expecting or during my pregnancy. And sure enough, they were like, you know, the best time to tell them is like when you reach that 5-month mark, because during, I guess, the first trimester is very critical, depending on, you know, what type of pregnancy you're having. So you want all the kinks to iron itself on out, and by the second trimester you should be able to tell. And I mean, at the second semester you're also showing. I was like, okay, so let me wait till that. So after that, next up was my siblings. Now I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister. So I told my sisters first, and they were like, I said, guys, I have to speak to you, and da-da-da-da-da. We sat down at the living room table, the dining room table, and I told them. They were like, oh, okay, you know. And I told him the whole spiel about homie not being around. They were like, all right, it's okay, you know. All that good sisterly love. I told my brother, and he was like, super, you best have a, okay. And I was like, okay, started to feel better about this, right? But I knew for a fact that I wasn't ready to tell my family. And I know, like, of course, me and Google were best friends during my, me expecting or during my pregnancy. And sure enough, they were like, you know, the best time to tell them is like when you reach that 5-month mark, because during, I guess, the first trimester is very critical, depending on, you know, what type of pregnancy you're having. So you want all the kinks to iron itself on out, and by the second trimester you should be able to tell. And I mean, at the second semester you're also showing. I was like, okay, so let me wait till that. Ended up going to Vegas, had a good grand old time, didn't get white girl wasted because clearly. And then my family's like, yo, Nat, you not drinking? I'm like, yeah, you know, my doctor put me on this medication and I'm not allowed to have alcohol. And that was my reason for that entire trip. But I had a good time at Vegas, and I ate exceptionally well. I ate really, really good. That was a good old time. But I definitely have to go back and do a second Vegas trip. So now, going down my list, right? It is a couple of days before, or a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. You know, the holiday season, everybody's home, and family's gonna be seeing you. And my mom hosts Thanksgiving every year. Everybody comes over, and I was like, all right, by that time I should be showing. But let me tell everybody before we get to dinner, right? So a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving was actually election day. Oh my gosh, it was election day. Yeah, that was the year of, yeah. That day I had an appointment, and that exact day I found out what I was having. And what's funny, and I'm gonna put y'all on real quick. In February of that year, right, I would have dreams of me being in my old bedroom before my parents added to the house, and I would see my my pink flannel sheet, and there would be this baby there that would just come, and I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, but I always knew I was taking care of it. And like throughout my dream, I would like walk around the house and all this extra stuff. And then I remember every time before I woke up, I said, I'm gonna be out. I told the baby, I'm like, I'm gonna, you know, go, but you're gonna be taken care of, right? So I would leave the baby in the bed, in my old bed, and then I would wake up. And this dream would occur like probably 3 times before I found out I was pregnant. Isn't that crazy? I was like, oh, God was telling me something was coming. And I think about it, I'm like, wow. Baby, you know how they be saying, the Caribbean people always say, I have a dream. Oh, I had a dream. I really did have a dream. It's kind of wild when I thought about it. And I'm like, February, I'm like, who is this child? And why does it keep coming to me? And the fact that anytime I would wake up, I knew it was safe. Like I would put it back down. I'm like, you'll be all right. You know, I wouldn't even say I'll be back. But every time I sat, you know, the second dream came, I'm like, what are you doing here again? Wow, that was something crazy. So it was election day. I had an appointment that day, and that was the appointment that I was gonna find out what I was having. And in the back of my mind, I knew it was a boy. So when the technician was like, do you want to know what you're having? I said, it's a boy. And she goes, it's a boy. I said, yeah, I knew. And throughout the time, as I'm sitting there trying to think of names, the only names I could come up with literally were a boy's name. And I'm like, it's a boy, it's a boy, it's a boy. And sure enough, that day after, I was looking at my list and I was like, okay, well, I have to tell, you know, the rest of my family. And I think I told my mom, you know, I want to be the person to tell them, not them to hear it from you. I ended up going to my aunt's house, went to the basement, classic grandma's basement, and my uncle was there. And I was like, all right, let me, what is it called? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then I was like, all right, hey, Tati. She was like, what? And then immediately she was like, you pregnant? I said, yeah. She goes, that too. And then she goes, I'm going to kill your mom for keeping this a secret and didn't tell me, da 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 da. And then she goes, you have to tell my kids. So that wasn't the plan. I was going to tell the cousins at another time. But I was like, all right, you know, whatever. So we get upstairs. My cousin's doing her homework on the computer. My other cousin's sitting down. And I was like, guys, you know, there's going to be another baby coming. They were like, who's pregnant? My cousin, who's the oldest out of the 2, she was like, who's pregnant? And I said, it's me. She was like, oh my God. And then my younger cousin, who was super young at that time, he was like, wait, what? So it was the day before Thanksgiving. But weeks prior to that, I sent everybody like a confidential-esque type mailing. And in those in those packages had like pieces of paper, right? So everybody got some type of mail. And I made sure I messaged or mailed each and every last one of my cousins. And I have a lot of cousins, y'all, on both my mom and dad's side. Fine. And so the idea was everybody gets a piece of paper that has a word on it. And then we come together. At that time, I don't think Zoom was utilized that much. We were on Google Meets or Google Talks or whatever. And everybody gets online and try to scramble their words together to make a sentence, right? Day before Thanksgiving, that Wednesday, I went to my cousin's apartment in Brooklyn. Shout out to Simpson, man. Shout out to my family. I'll be utilizing everybody's space. So I went to my cousin Simpson's apartment. My other cousin showed up. Everybody was there. Oh wait, prior to this, telling my cousins. I told my other aunt. I went to her house. I went to her office and we're talking. And I remember I said, don't tell your daughter. I want to tell her myself. She's like, all right, bet. And once we got to the cousins round of me telling them, I was expecting, and I ended up telling them, my cousin was like, I went to my mom and asked her, like, what was up? She thought that I came into some money, that I won the lotto or something. I was like, nah, definitely not that. I wish, but no, not that. Wouldn't that be perfect timing? But eventually, I'm going to share a clip here of how it went, scrapping up the letters, and then the sentence was, there's a birthday coming in March or something like that. I can't remember. And that's how my family knew.
What's going on? All right. Oh, obviously this is what's at the end. There will.
I'm not getting that.
Whose birthday? What happens when you have a new birthday?
A new year.
March will there celebrate and be to something. Right?
For real? Yes.
Who's having a baby?
Really, Nicole?
Really?
Yes. I am.
Are you recording me?
Yes.
You.
Oh my God! See, you can't keep. See? Wait, Crystal and Leah, you guys knew? Yes, yeah, we were talking about like mommy, so we didn't have to tell you. I couldn't tell you.
I want to hold on a bumper right now and get on fire, yeah. Chase the life, yes the life. Say put your drinks and shake it.
All right. That year was the year of that girl, oh, what's it called? The mannequin challenge. That girl is a real crowd pleaser. So we did that. And then I remember posting it online on Instagram. And then my good girl Jenna was like, Nat, I see the belly. I was like, yeah, girl, it's coming. And let's backtrack, okay? Because at that time, I didn't know where to turn to. I'm like, okay, I need a good doctor. Didn't know, like, once I got, once I knew I was expecting, at that time, I did not have insurance. And so I was like, I don't know how any of this stuff works. She put me on to Dr. Lennox Bryson of Nassau Medical. And that man literally saved my life, okay? Throughout my pregnancy, it was all clear and dandy until the last semester. I ended up having preeclampsia. I remember one night I went to go get my hair braided in Harlem. That night during my overnight position with no insurance, I had the worst headache known to man. I have never felt anything like that before. And anytime I would go for my checkups, they were like, your blood pressure is elevating, it's elevating, it's elevating, it's elevating. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Child, I don't know what it means. And Dr. Lennox Bryson will just sit down with me and explain to me what was going on in pretty much Barney terms, like, all right, this is what's happening to your body. This is why we need to monitor it. This is how come instead of coming every other week, you're coming every week to the doctor. And man, him and his entire team were perfect. Dr. Lennox Bryson is one of us, right? A male doctor that has been practicing for years. Very clean, very polished. One of, if not the best, the absolute best, y'all. The best. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, this is the type of pregnancy that I want. I wanted to have my child at the Cats Women's Center, LIJ, I don't know, I think it's called Northwell. It's called Northwell now in Long Island. I had the idea of how I wanted to have the little like decorations of when I was insane. Have like decorations on, like it's a boy banner along my bed, and then me and the newborn, and have a photographer come. Child, oh my gosh, it did not go like that. It did not go like that. And honestly, I couldn't see it any other way. Any other way. God bless Dr. Jenna Lynn, and God bless Dr. Lennox Bryson. Jenna, if you are watching this, girl, I cannot thank you enough. I cannot thank you enough. I love you deep, 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 through and true. Okay, we've been through some stuff. That is the homie for life. I love you. Speaking of friends, I have one friend that is extremely godly. Love him down bad, right? Always tells me what I need to hear. Him and Jenna are the same person, but just different genders, honestly. Tells me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, right? Now, the year before I got pregnant, all of us, all my friends, we went to Eastern Parkway for the Labor Day parade, right? The year after, of course, I had to jump up one last time. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this right. The year after, my godly friend came with us to the parkway, and at that time I was in the car and I was telling him that I was expecting, and I told him that you know, remember, sure, homie from last year, he's not gonna be part of my child's life. And he let out some curses, and I looked at him like, I didn't know you curse. I didn't know you curse. And I sat back and I was like, oh, you do care for me. He was like, yeah, that. I was like, what kind of man does it? I was like, all right, all right. One thing about it, my friends don't play about me, and I do not play about my friends at all. At all. I think it was like a couple of days after my birthday, and I contacted my son's sperm donor, and I wanted to ask him a couple of questions, like, you know, anybody in your house has developmentally delayed behavioral issues, born with Down syndromes and things like that. And like with certain things, especially blood work you need from both parents. And so getting that even out of him was a headache and a half. And I'm like, bro, it's not that serious. And I remember sitting in a car with him and just asking these questions, like, you know, were you delayed when it came to speaking, walking, potty training and all this stuff? And then I got out the car. Randomly, my brother pulls up, and he's looking at the car. He's looking at me. He's like, all right, whatever, go inside. And I remember going into the room, my room, and then it was probably like, well, I was watching something on television, and I don't know what it was, but something told me to look outside, and he was still parked there. And I was like, I don't know, what is it that going through his mind or what? Maybe, I don't know. But I found that so like, okay, whatever. Yeah, that was a little different. Fast forwarding, we're now in January. We are January, February, March. 3 months away from the baby. That's when a lot of things started developing. So my blood pressure was getting higher. My foot was swelling like crazy. And now I was on watch, okay? Like white on rice on a white foam plate during a winter storm, okay? They were on me. And I remember there was one appointment I went to, and Dr. Bryson wasn't there. It was another attending physician. And all I remember is him reading my blood pressure, and he was like, I guess he was looking at the notes, and whatever came out his mouth was like induced. And I was like, okay. I said, I don't know, I understand what that word means, but I don't know how deep it means. So I said, the next appointment that I come to, I'm gonna have my mom come with me. Yeah. So that Monday came. This is the appointment after the doctor talked about inducement, and I was like, okay, let me bring my mom. Long story short, I went in that hospital and never came out until Izzy was born. You guys know the Mr. Krabs meme when it looks like, that's exactly how the whole day went. So I drove to the hospital, because the hospital also has a women's center where you get checked. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. And it was newly renovated. And my mom drove to from the house to the hospital. And then the doctor was like, all right, we're gonna try an inducement tonight. So what that means is you're gonna go home, get your stuff, and then we're gonna go ahead and start everything. Okay, the line of communication for me, I literally had a list that I printed out on Word, okay, and it said, okay, I'm gonna tell my aunt first, I'm gonna tell my cousins, then I'm gonna tell my dad's side, now I gotta do the aunts, the uncles, the cousins. Out the door, out the door. Again, my mom is with me, and sure enough, we're going home. We go home in her car. We get my stuff. I think my brother asked me if I like wanted tuna fish. All I remember is that he's asking me for tuna sandwich, and she goes up to him. She goes, "No, the baby's coming. We have to go back to the hospital. Narek, I need you to come and get Nat 2's car and bring it home." So I think Narek came with us in the car. Yeah, because somebody needed to take the car home. Great. Okay, now it was show time. So go home, get my stuff, come back, and I'm getting ready to be induced. They say change it to this, take off all your earrings, take off that. I'm like, okay, all right. Throughout this, I'm texting Dr. Jenna Lynn. And I said, this is probably before I even got home, and I was still at my appointment in the morning. And she hits me up and she was like, I have a spirit credit. I have a spirit credit. I will come to Nassau. I would come to the hospital tonight. And I said, I don't know if you want to waste it on that. She goes, I'm coming, right? So what happens after that is I'm at the hospital. It's me and my mom. And then 2 seconds later, who comes rolling in? Dr. Jenna Lynn. Now, again, I don't know. She came from Georgia to New York in a span of a couple of hours. And I was like, that's the homie for life right there. Dr. Jenna Lynn, I love you. And I will continue to say that until my last breath. I really thank God for you. And I remember her rolling in with her suitcase. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. And what happened was Dr. Jenna Lynn knew. My sisters didn't know. So when they came in, they were like, oh, what, Jenna, what you that? They were like, what? Okay, what? So from what I found out was Jenna told my sisters, you know, if you have a younger sibling, you know they gotta be all up in the mix. They gotta come either way. So she was there, my aunt came. And I'm like, this is not how I wanted it to be. Everybody was supposed to get a phone call from me or like a text picture from me. With the baby. Everybody's in the room. My dad ended up coming after work. But at the point, oh, my cousin was there. And her mom's like, we got to get home because you got school tomorrow. She's like, no, like the party's in here. I don't want to go to school. I want to see the baby. I want to be the first one seeing the baby. My cousin came. She was like, oh no, Natsu's having a baby. Her mom came. My uncle was, everybody was there. The inducement starts and I don't know. They put like this tiny, when I tell you guys, it was the most tiniest pill known to men. It was so tiny. And they stuck that up my woo-ha. And what was supposed to happen were contractions. And baby, them contractions were contracting. I was like, oh, this is what it feels like. First, it's like, you know, your muscles, normal cramps that you get, or some women get every month during their menstrual, right? Then it was like, wait a minute. And then it was like, and I was like, oh, this. And then eventually it just stopped. And they went to go check the service and they were like, yeah, you're not down, nothing's happening, right? And that's because naturally he wasn't ready to come out. My due date was later that month. It was March. It was the end of February. My due date was at the end of March. So clearly he wasn't ready to come out. All right, so at this point, they still have the monitors on me. The blood pressure is going up. And they want to try the whole inducing thing again. And I think somebody mentioned the option of a C-section. And I remember I was talking to Jenna about it. Sure enough, C-section, the idea of a C-section, went to go tell Dr. Bryson. And he was like, I remember his face too. He was like, it was like, damn, another one? He's like, all right, this is what's gonna happen. I'll come back to do the C-section. He had plans that night, y'all. He was like, I'm gonna go to the city to meet a friend. I'm gonna go to the city to meet a friend, and then afterwards I'll come and we'll do the C-section. So I'm like, all right, it's showtime. So anytime a baby is born at that hospital, they play the happy birthday song. And I don't know why it didn't click that there's literally a child being born every second somewhere around this world. And so while I'm in the hospital waiting for my time to come, all I hear is dun, 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 like every 2 seconds. I'm like, that's a lot of babies, right? And yeah, I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I really hope that all those children that were born on or near the same time as my son are doing extremely well, are progressing extremely well, are being amazing, beautiful young humans, are smart and kind to everybody and each other, and you know, are doing the daggone thing. I actually did end up seeing an inmate come in, and I don't know why they had her shackled. That was a little inhumane for me. But they had her and 2 cops there, and she went to go ahead and deliver her son. And you could hear the screams in the hall. And I was like, golly, the stuff women go through, man. But it was really an amazing experience. And I really do pray for that child and the mom and hope everything is all right now. So the time came, and I literally haven't been moving. I was just on the bed for those couple of hours or those days waiting for my scheduled now C-section to happen. Well, technically it was an emergency C-section because he had to come out. Yeah, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. At this point, y'all done stuck stuff in me. Okay, I want him out. Okay, and took a couple of pictures, and I was like, all right, guys, here I go. And you know what's crazy, y'all? Throughout the entire time, I don't know if it was my ancestors or what, but the energy was just right. And I remember feeling at peace and me not worried. Now, my mom and my dad, on the other hand, were probably like just, you know, but for me, it was just like everything is going to be okay. Going back to that text message that Dr. Jetta Lynn sent me, breathe, everything will be okay. So now what was gonna happen was, okay, they're gonna try to numb me, but remember, I was swollen everywhere. The legs, my arms, clearly my body. And what they tried to do was numb me from the waist down. And at that point, if they were able to do it, my mom would have been in the room to see the delivery. However, if that wasn't the case, which it wasn't, and I had to be put asleep, put on amnesia, she wouldn't be in the room because they don't want, you know, people seeing, you know, it is kind of scary, right? And got rolled to the room. I got rolled to the room for them to try the first option. And I remember this lady with a Spanish accent, probably one of the best nurses in the world. She was like, okay, mommy, okay, hold on to my hand. And they were trying to numb me. And they had to insert something on my spine. It wasn't an epidural, but it was something to numb the bottom, waist down. Was it the epidural? I don't know. But it was like papa, papa, papa on my back. And I was like, they were like, yeah, this ain't working. And I thought, okay, let me go to sleep, whatever. Made me drink some bubbly stuff. It was like a very orangey, it tastes like orange soda. And I was like, okay. And I remember me laying down and I was like, I feel like I need to burp. But I was like, all right, let me just go ahead and wheel it. And as they're wheeling me down into the surgery room, I see my Dr. Lennox Bryson, and I see him all suited and booted. Now, every single time I see Dr. Bryson, he has on his nice leather shoes and a nice, the pants with the crease in the middle and a nice button-up shirt and a nice tie. That's Dr. Bryson 24/7. But when I saw him in his actual attire, I was like, oh, you actually do work. Okay. And he came back from wherever he was, and he was like, all right, let's do it. The nurses that he was with, 10 out of 10. Everybody on his team, 10 out of 10. The anesthesiologist, though, I think he was new, and he was a little nervous. And I remember him, like, you know, when they're all gathering to put me under, essentially, and to get this procedure started, he was a little high off. And then the black nurse was like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Everybody stop real quick. All right, we're gonna take a deep breath. All right, we're gonna deliver this baby with no issues and no complications. I need everybody to calm down. I need everybody to get situated. Do whatever it is that you have to do to make your mind on the correct track, okay? She put that white boy in his place. She was like, we don't do that over here on Team Dr. Lennox Bryson, okay? And that was peace, okay? They were like, all right, Miss, I'm not gonna give it. All right, Miss P, and I remember the anesthesiologist slapping the shit out of my face. He was like, what? I said, what? Like that? What? And what's it called? He was like, okay, ma'am, you know, how you feeling? I said, I feel like I need to sit up and burp. That's exactly what I said. Because that thing was just like, I needed to be like let it out, right? So, ended up waking up. And I remember closing my eyes one more time. And then I woke up once again. I woke up once again and I was in the room, right? And then I remember vividly seeing my cousin first. And then I panned the room to everybody else, right? And then my cousin was looking at me like, I ain't never doing this shit. I ain't never having no kids. Her face was like, girl. I know I was high off of life, baby. And the thing was, I remember hearing my mom, okay guys, everybody has to get out. She needs her rest, da 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 da. I remember my friend Jenna saying, Nat, I took some pictures for you. Look at your phone. And I was like, oh, just out of it, completely out, completely medicine up, baby. But I was like, okay. And I remember my mom saying, give her more, give her another shot, give her another shot. And I think it was morphine, baby. Morphine had me like, woo. And I remember going back to sleep, but also feeling so excited. But I think that's what woke me up, my excitement for, okay, she said something about pictures, it's on my phone, so I'm gonna go see it, da 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 da. And I woke up, I looked to my right, my parents were sleeping, probably on those uncomfortable hospital chairs and whatnot. And I was like, okay, cool. Then I remember looking at my phone, and the first time I saw my son were pictures that she sent through WhatsApp, because although we live here in the United States of America, we still text like we are from the Caribbean, in which we actually are, you know, or from abroad. And sure enough, I was like, oh my gosh, look at him. He looks so tall. And not for nothing, and I know God did this. Thank you, Jesus. My son came out looking just like my dad. Amen. So now we are at the next day. My grandma calls from Haiti. She's on speakerphone with Dr. Lennox Bryson. Thank you. How's she doing? And you know, my grandma's an old school nurse. I think at this point, everybody's left. I'm in the room by myself. I'm still being monitored and checked after pregnancy, after my surgery. They're checking my blood pressure, which is very important. And, you know, just keeping a track on that. And sure enough, I'm there. He's in NICU because he was born a little earlier. And Dr. Bryson came in. He was like, you haven't seen him yet? I was like, no. They're like, yo, like, go take her to see her son. Like, what are y'all, you know, whatever. And sure enough, I'm in the wheelchair. Now, the wheelchair is going -1 mile per hour, -0.5 miles per hour, like slow, like a snail slow. Baby, the drugs that were still in my system. I told the guy, I was like, please, slow down. He's looking at me like, ma'am. I'm like, Got to the NICU, and I saw him. And it's funny because I'm looking around and they don't have a name. They just have like, they don't have like his name on there. They just have my last name. But I even saw his head. I was like, that must be mine. So small. And it's crazy because he was crying, making a fuss. As soon as the nurse, the NICU nurse, put him into my arms, he stopped and she was like, oh yeah, he knows who his mom is. I said, yeah. Yeah, this is one of the first pictures I took, man. And I was nervous because they're so small. They are so small. It's fragile. And you're just like, oh my gosh. And I remember the nurse telling me, she goes, babies are stronger than you think. They are very, very strong. Because, I mean, NICU nurses. And I remember there was one baby that had a big head. Oh, I wonder how he or she is doing. He had a big old head. And I was like, oh, look at them. And their sense of hearing, I think like a pen dropped or something dropped on the floor. And all you saw was them going. I was like, oh my God, all these babies. I was so exhausted. But I think my excitement just overpowered that exhaustion. And I was like so excited to see him. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she was like, what's his name? Israel. She goes, oh, Israel. Okay. And so, of course, you have to do paperwork and all this stuff. And I put down his name. I gave him my dad's middle name. I gave him my dad's name for his middle name. And my dad was like, oh, I heard that you gave him my middle name. And I started crying. I couldn't. My dad is the sensitive one, if you guys don't know. He's very sensitive. That's where we get our sensitivity from. At least that's where I get mine. And yeah, shout out to men that show feelings. I rolled back up to another room now, because now it's post-pregnancy. And again, what were they on me? Like white on rice on a foam plate in a snowstorm. The nurses came and checked my blood pressure. That thing, they saw that it was elevated. They were like, oh no, you're not leaving. You're not leaving today. You probably not leaving tomorrow. And I was like, man. She was like, yeah, no, you can't go home. You ain't going nowhere, baby. You staying behind right up in here. I was like, okay. Now remember Dr. Bryson came up and he was like, hey, how you feeling? I said, I'm good. Why can't I go home? He was like, why can't you go home? No. You're going to go home when you are deemed to go home. When I say you are okay to go home, all right? The swelling went down. Pretty much he put me in check. And I was like, all right, bet. You got it. You got your degree and everything.
Since you got your degree and you know every fucking thing.
And which he does. Oh my gosh. After 10 days in the hospital, I was able to leave, but my son had to stay. But it was only just for one night, thank God. And I remember going home. Everybody or women that had C-sections know that there's that pain, you know, because I mean, they cut through layers and layers of skin, fat, and muscles. What I should have asked my doctor was he could just, you know, take out a little bit of fat, but whatever, to get to the baby. And yeah, that scar or scar or incision, it hurts, you know, as it's healing, like any other cut does, right? I remember my sister's friend who was pregnant. We went to go see her at the hospital. The nurses over there always told her to keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. And that's the only thing I remember. So I would just walk everywhere, walk to the NICU, walk back up, anywhere that I needed to go. I would just like even do laps around the floor. Always make sure that I was walking. They're like, that's the best thing you could do. While my stay at the hospital, shout out to Lise, shout out to Yoli Pop, shout out to Tati Claire, my brother, my uncle. Everybody came to visit me, just checking in on me. I really appreciate it. Even those little moments, loved it. Understanding how to pump. And I think it was really a blessing in disguise to be at the hospital afterwards for that extended amount, because they were teaching me how to breastfeed correctly. They spoke to me on how, you know, he should be latching and things like that. So I was really, really grateful for every staff member at that place. Seriously. I called when I got home. They said just call the next morning to make sure that he's okay to be discharged. Called the next morning. She goes, what's the name? And she was like, yeah, he's ready to go. So you could come around 4 o'clock. And I was like, yay. And she was on the other line. She was like, yay. And sure enough, me and my sister go pick him up, right? And super excited to go. Again, it's a teaching hospital, so there's other students there or not. So we go in, he's sitting there. She's telling me, like, you know, he passed his hearing test. He passed this, he passed that. You know, just basic. And then like they quiz you real quick, how should the car seat be seated, all this stuff. And the nurse that discharged him reminded me of my aunt so much, like just Caucasian. Like seriously, it was the same lady but a different shade of skin, and she made me feel real good. And she was like, I'll roll you guys out, I'll come with you guys, because and I remember her saying like, I need a break too, so I'm gonna go outside with you all. Before actually she rolls him out, me and my sister are there, and she like rolls him to us in the little what do you call that? Not a cradle, but like one of those things, right? And so she's like, okay guys, here, get him dressed. And she goes, okay, here, get him dressed, and we'll be ready to go. When I saw you, me and my sister looked at him, and we were just like, I bought this cute little outfit, or maybe I didn't buy it, but somebody bought me this cute outfit for him, and it had like these stripes on it. It was so cute. And I put on his little hat and the socks to make sure he was good. It was cold that day. That March of 2017 was very cold. And then we headed on home. I was in the back seat with him. I took a nice little picture of him. I was like, oh my God, he's so tiny. I remember this. We're driving down my block. My cousin who wanted to stay but had school the next morning, she used to live next door to me. And so her screen door randomly was, not screen door, but her front door was open. And coming down the block, and I'm assuming like my sister or somebody was like, I'm about to go get Nat. We're about to go pick up Izzy from the hospital. And coming down the block, I see the door open. I see her on the cordless phone, and I see her run. Anywho, long story short, she came to my house with the cordless phone in hand, waiting to see him. It was such an amazing time. That moment was like, oh yes, family. What would I be without family? Where would I be without family? And yeah, brought him home, and then let the parenting journey begin. And that is the beginning of my parental journey. And I wouldn't change it for the world. Everything happened because it was supposed to happen that way. Well, yeah, this journey of parenthood, it's trying. It's full of lessons, but it's full of so much love and so much fun. And I make sure I tell my son every day that I'm so glad that he's here on this journey with me, because I couldn't see myself doing it by myself. I could not be on this journey of life without him. I couldn't see it. You know, I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful for an amazing family, for me to have that support and that solid foundation. I'm thankful for all the love that's poured not only into me, but to him. But yeah, there's a lot of things that parenthood, specifically single parenthood, has taught me a lot about what I can. I was going to say what I can and what I cannot handle. But everything that's been thrown to me, I've been handling with grace. And I have nobody to thank but God. But God, and only God. So to all the moms out there, the boy moms out there, the new ones, the old ones, older ones. Yeah, if you want to share your story of how you entered parenthood, feel free. I love to hear from you. And that's it. Cheers to you. Shout out to all the moms doing the daggone thing. Shout out to all the single moms doing the daggone thing. I love y'all. I respect y'all. I respect us. Let's continue doing the best for our children. For our future children, because somebody's been asking me for a baby brother. And I have a theory. Or I have like an idea. Well, this is in my head and I don't know why. But I see or I feel something coming in the next couple of weeks. And I feel like my life next year is going to be completely different from what it is right now. Next year, this time. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Baby brother. And I was like, what if you get a baby sister? I want it to be a brother. All right, we shall see. Anywho, y'all pray for your girl. And until my next video, I will see you somewhere on Instagram, Snap, somewhere on the internet. All right? I love y'all. See y'all later. Bye.